Well, this is Pastor Tim coming to you from Bend and Lomita United Methodist Churches in Central Texas, small churches in rural areas, carrying on the ministry of Jesus Christ. We'd love to have you join us at 9 o'clock on Sunday morning on Facebook. We have a live stream, and then it's posted on Facebook for your later consumption. We are talking about the Bible. We are talking about some of the Bible background. There's a basic lack of understanding of the Bible. Part of it is due to the fact that it's so complex and it has so many different moving parts. And we thought we would talk about the great themes of the Bible first, and we talked about the books of the Bible. Now we're talking about the stories of the Bible. I think it's important to know the stories. If nothing else, the Jewish faith is a religion of stories. And so we're going to talk about Joseph and the coat of many colors. That's an interpretation in English. It actually was most famous for the fact that it had long sleeves and tassels at the end. But we'll come to the explanation of that. Jacob had 12 sons, and because his 12 sons end up being the 12 tribes of Israel, so he's an important figure in the history of the Jewish faith. He had 12 sons, and one of them was named Joseph. Joseph was one of the younger sons. He wasn't the youngest, but he was the youngest at the time of the story. And he was not very well liked by his brothers. It seems like the best fights that we have in the Bible or anywhere are within family. So his brothers were not too fond of his cockiness. His father seemed to favor him, even to the point of giving him a coat with long tassels on the sleeves. The importance of that is that with long sleeves, he could not work the cattle, he could not work in the field like his brothers did. He was considered a homebody. His father kind of kept him home, to keep him safe and to keep him around him. And the brothers didn't very much like that. And Joseph had a habit of interpreting dreams. He would come out to his brothers and say, I had a dream, and that all of you were going to bow down to me. Brothers don't take that very well, especially older brothers. And so they decided to do something about it. One of the times he came out to them, they hit him in the head and knocked him into a pit. And then they couldn't figure out what to do with him. One wanted to kill him, but another said, let's do something to make some money off of him. And so they decided to sell him into slavery. So there were some slave traders coming through on a caravan, and they sold their brother. But then they had the problem, what do they tell their father? And so they got a coat, his coat, and put goat's blood on it, and told his father that he had been killed by robbers and actually been taken by slave traders. And he went to Egypt, where he was thrown into prison. But his talent for interpreting dreams got him an in with the king, because the emperor, the Pharaoh, was not sure what to do. He wanted to see about the future. And so he had a dream. And the dream involved cattle, but what the basically story is that they're going to have 7 good years and then 7 lean years. There's all dependent on the Nile and how it flooded and how it watered the territory around the Nile and how it delivered the silt that was a rich soil. And Joseph was the one who could interpret that. So he ended up being in service of the Pharaoh. But the Pharaoh's another wife, an important person, not the Pharaoh's wife, but another wife was interested in messing around. She was not satisfied with her husband, and so she tried to get Joseph to go to bed with her. And when he wouldn't, she made false accusations. He went back into prison. But his interpretation of dreams ended up really getting him out. And he ended up being the second in charge of Egypt. Now, he managed the time of plenty, and he stored away crops so that they'd have some during the lean years. And so the lean years came, and it was lean all over the Middle East. But Pharaoh and the Egyptians had food. So his father and brothers heard of that, and so they sent his brothers to Egypt. Now, the brothers had no idea of what had happened to Joseph, and so they went down to Egypt to beg for food. And Joseph saw this. Maybe it's an opportunity, and he knew that he had to bring one off on his brothers because he no longer looked like a Hebrew. As was the habit of the Egyptians, he shaved, he cut his hair, he dressed like an Egyptian, he talked like an Egyptian, and if you excuse the demonstration, he walked like an Egyptian. So they didn't recognize him, and so he said, "Where's your brother? Where's your younger brother?" The brother that was younger than Joseph. And so they went back to get him, and Joseph then revealed himself to his brothers, and they were sure that they were going to be done in. But instead, he said that what you intended for evil, God intended for good. God took that which happened to me and made it useful for the Egyptians and useful for the Hebrews, for the future of the clan, for the future of a nation. And so he said, you come down here and we'll set it up so that you can live here and live off the crops that the Egyptians have and do well. And so they sojourned down to Egypt. That's not going to turn out well later on. But for right now, Joseph saved his family, saved his nation, and saved the Egyptians. So everything is going well. So that's the story of Joseph, and I'll see you next time.